Part 2. Drawing a parallel between the concepts of shadow clones and shadow puppets from Naruto and the spiritual and psychological struggles people face with their own shadow aspects provides a deep and insightful metaphor. Here's how this can be formulated. Shadow clones, the army of unchecked shadows. Shadow clones, in the spiritual sense, represent the replication of one's own unresolved shadow aspects. These could be negative traits, unhealed wounds, or repressed desires that a person refuses to confront. Instead of addressing these shadows, the individual unconsciously projects them onto others, creating a metaphorical army of these shadow aspects. How they are used. Manipulation and control. By identifying and connecting with the triggers and vulnerabilities in others, individuals can replicate their own shadow traits in these people. This allows them to manipulate and control those around them by isolating these shadow aspects and exploiting them. Reinforcement of negative behavior. In a group setting, these shadow clones act in unison, reinforcing each other's negative behavior. Since they all stem from the same unresolved issues, they never check each other or hold each other accountable. Instead, they amplify each other's negativity, creating a toxic environment where negative energy grows unchecked. How they are deployed. Group dynamics. In group settings, these shadow clones can be deployed by rallying like-minded individuals who share similar unresolved issues or shadow traits. This creates a collective where the shadow aspects of each individual are mirrored and multiplied, creating a powerful yet destructive force. Isolation tactics. Shadow clones can also be deployed in more manipulative ways, by isolating individuals and exploiting their specific triggers. By keeping them in a state of emotional or psychological isolation, their shadow aspects are amplified, making them more susceptible to control shadow puppets, the tools of manipulation. Shadow puppets represent the deliberate use of other people's shadows as tools for personal gain. Unlike shadow clones, which are direct projections of one's own unresolved issues, shadow puppets are external entities, other people whose shadow aspects are manipulated by the individual for their own purposes. How they are used. Manipulative control, shadow puppets, are used to execute the will of the manipulator. By pulling the strings of others' unresolved issues, fears, or vulnerabilities, the individual can control their actions, often leading them to act in ways that serve the manipulator's agenda. Execution of hidden agendas. The person controlling the shadow puppets may not expose their own shadow aspects directly. Instead, they hide behind these puppets, using them to carry out actions that they themselves want to remain hidden or unassociated with. How they are deployed. Selective targeting. Shadow puppets are typically deployed by targeting individuals who are emotionally or psychologically vulnerable, those who have unresolved shadow aspects that can be easily manipulated. Once these people are identified, the manipulator can subtly pull their strings to make them act in ways that further their own goals. Maintaining control. To maintain control over the shadow puppets, the manipulator may continue to exploit their vulnerabilities, ensuring that they remain dependent on or loyal to the manipulator. This can create a cycle of control where the puppet is unaware of how they are being used. The growth of negative energy, a self-perpetuating cycle. Both shadow clones and shadow puppets contribute to the growth of negative energy in a group or environment. When individuals use these tactics, lack of accountability. In both cases, the negative energy is allowed to grow because there is no accountability. Shadow clones created from the same unresolved issues don't check each other's behavior, while shadow puppets being controlled don't have the autonomy to reflect or correct themselves. Amplification of shadows. The more these tactics are used, the stronger and more pervasive the shadow aspects become. In a group setting, this can lead to an environment where negativity, manipulation, and control are normalized and even encouraged. Cycle of destruction. Over time, the unchecked growth of these shadow aspects can lead to the destruction of relationships, communities, or even the individual themselves as the energy becomes too toxic to sustain. Breaking the cycle. To break this cycle, it's essential to bring awareness to the existence of these shadow aspects and the ways they are being used. This involves self-reflection. Individuals must be willing to confront and integrate their own shadow aspects rather than projecting them onto others or using them for manipulation.